Hello everybody, my name is Launa Johnson. I'm a student in the Graphic and Web Design program at Southwest Technical College in Wisconsin. Today I'm going to be showing you guys a tutorial on a cool chromatic text effect and tutorial as part of a class assignment. In the description, I provide a link to a gradient that I'm using, which is provided by TextureLabs. They have a tutorial as well on how to do a chromatic effect, which is a little more complicated than what I'm going to be showing today. I also took inspiration from Intuitive Designs for the font choice and tutorial. So once I'm in Photoshop, I go to Create New Document and I just choose the 8.5 by 11, which is what everyone knows and loves, and I made that landscape. So once I'm into my document, I make the background black and then I put my text on. So you, of course, can choose whatever word or phrase that you want. I'm going with Graphic and Web Design because I am in that program. So after I get my text laid down, I go over to the layers panel and I make my text into a smart object. And those familiar with Illustrator, this is basically the same as making your text into outlines. So next I'm going to be adding some layer styles to my text. So I'm turning on bevel and emboss, and you can change this to whatever your preference is. We're just kind of adding depth into our text. And so this is what I think looks good for now. I'll of course be editing it later. And depending on whatever letters you use, you might need to change it up a little. So this part gets a little tricky if you are new at Photoshop. So first I'm going to be doing Command G in order to group everything together. And then I'm going over to adjustments and I'm going to pick curves. So I'm just going to adjust the curves as seen on the screen, and then I'm going to create a clipping mask in order to merge it with only the text below. And then after that, I'm going back to the adjustments and I'm putting on a gradient map. This is where we will put in our color, but I want to make this a clipping mask as well, so it doesn't apply to the background, it only applies to the text. So just be careful, make sure that's a clipping mask. And you apply clipping mask one way by going to the layers panel and then right clicking on whatever you want to make a clipping mask, and then you should be able to scroll down and you can find where it says create clipping mask. So if you downloaded the gradients, which I provided in the description from TextureLabs, you should have 8 different options to choose from. And you can choose whatever one you think looks best, and we're just gonna keep making adjustments until we get a real chromatic effect. So right now it's looking a little weird, and so as you see on the screen, I'm just gonna make a few adjustments. So if you're not getting the effect that you want, I recommend first going to curves, and then afterwards I realized that my bevel and emboss, the size on it was too big, and so I changed it back down to 5 and it started looking a lot better. So after we finish this, the next steps aren't very necessary. It's more of an aesthetic preference. So I'm adding a Gaussian blur to give it kind of a glow effect. So I'm just rewriting Graphic and Web. And then I'm going up to Filter, and then I'm going to Blur, and then Gaussian blur. And I am just turning that up a little so the whole text is blurry, and then I'm going to turn down the opacity on that so it's not so strong. And then it'll just go on top of it, and as you can see, it creates a really cool effect. So after that, I'm going in with a gradient, kind of a darkish blackish gradient, and then I'm actually turning the opacity down on that because even then it's too bright for me, and so I want something just really dark. So for our last aesthetic optional piece, I am adding some noise to give it a really old like 80s effect. So I am just making a triangle over the entire piece, and then I am turning it into kind of a greenish blue color, and I'm going up to filter, and then I'm going to add noise, and then you can just mess around with uniform or Gaussian, and then after you get that put on, you just go down to opacity, and I have this set around 20, which is what I want it to be at, and then we got kind of like a grainy, more 80s old effect going on. Thank you everyone so much for watching, and of course please subscribe if you want to see more. There's lots more video tutorials on our YouTube page, so please subscribe. There'll be more in the future as well.